I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. I call the October meeting of the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission to order. Can we have a roll call, please, Amanda? Oh, sorry.
Yes. Chair June Hunsberger.
Present.
Vice Chair Patricia Trouth.
Present.
James Gross.
Present.
Glenn Johnson.
Present.
Errol Standerfer. Present. David Thiele.
I'm here.
And Jim Wong.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I'd like to invite everyone tonight to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, the first order of business is approving the minutes from our September meeting. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to look over the minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Great. If we can move that to vote, that would be great. It looks like that passes unanimously. So on to item number 5. The next agenda item is oral communication. This is the opportunity for the public to come up and address any issue they have with us. There is a 3-minute time limit, and just so the public is aware, we cannot engage in dialogue with the public speakers on the issues they bring to the commission because they are not on our published agenda. However, we are listening, and we can address the issues at the end of the meeting during our Commissioner Corner agenda item. So with that, do we have any speakers?
We do. We have 3 speakers tonight. Our first speaker is Landon Lorenzo, followed by Lori Gentili.
Okay, thank you. Come on. You can come on up to the podium.
Today, my classmates and I would like to discuss a few issues that we have found to be detrimental to our school. The first is traffic congestion on Santa Fe Drive. Both before and after school, the traffic to get in, out, or around the school is excessive. It has come to our attention that construction will soon commence to make significant changes to Santa Fe Drive in front of San Diego Academy to enhance safety for pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicles. We are also aware that there are already enforcements aiming to allocate patrols among all the schools in the Encinitas area during drop-off and pickup times. When speaking to North Coastal Traffic Sergeant, he noted that citations are issued for various vehicle code violations, including parking violations and failure to wear a helmet while riding a bike. However, we have personally found that the prevalence of cars in the bike lane by our school's front parking lot remains despite additional patrol. We would like to call for further enforcement of this violation. This could be executed with the addition of signs or paint to remind parents that they cannot park or idle in the bike lane while they wait for their children. Additionally, specific enforcement of this violation would set a precedent for the many who continue to park on the roadside. Cars that idle in the bike lane make it difficult for drivers to see the traffic coming towards them while exiting the left turn lane in the front parking lot. Bikers must also exit their designated lane when this happens, causing it to be very dangerous for both the drivers and pedestrians. My peers and I have concerns that the continuation of this violation without proper enforcement will lead to accidents. My classmates and I attest that we have seen multiple close calls with e-bikes in the driving lane and sidewalks due to this issue. We've also noticed that more accidents or close calls concerning the unprotected left turn at Santa Fe and Bonita Drive. When leaving the school from the left turning lane, we have found that making an unprotected left turn onto Bonita Drive is virtually impossible due to the large amount of traffic after school gets out. Many student drivers find themselves unable to turn left as they must yield to the never-ending stream of cars and pedestrians. This can disturb the flow of traffic in all directions, and we fear that it could lead to even more accidents in the area. Add in the fact that many student drivers are on the road at Santa Fe, and collisions are imminent. We have brought two issues to your attention today, and we understand that changes to Santa Fe and our school are coming with the funding provided by Senator Blakespear. We hope that the issues we have brought forth may be expedited in this process. For the safety of our students, our roadways, and our community, we urge you to consider the issues we have stated in upcoming plans for Santa Fe.
Thank you so much for your comments tonight.
Next speaker is Lori Gentili, followed by Christine Schindler.
Well, it's interesting because I'm here because of the bike lane situation on Santa Fe. I live on Crest and I go to the beach a lot with my bike. And as an adult, I am always scared to get in the traffic, even on the weekends, because this bike lane situation is not a continuous bike lane, either going or coming from the beach. It's broken up. You got to get in traffic and out of traffic and in traffic. And I don't even know how someone would send their kid to this school and feel good about it in the morning or in the afternoon. It's that dangerous. And the fact that in Encinitas, we have a school without a safe bike lane until when? This year, we're getting ready to start construction, is, to me, mind-blowing. Not only is it unsafe on Santa Fe, but Birmingham doesn't have a bike lane. And everybody's riding their bikes to the beach. So from El Camino to the beach, Encinitas Boulevard, Santa Fe and Birmingham need to have green bike lanes so people can see the bikes. I've witnessed almost so many bike accidents just as a person going to work or somewhere in the morning, and I think it's just unbelievable. So I know you have some plans. I hope these bike lanes are a major priority for all three of these streets. And anywhere else in San Diego, to be honest with you, people are on bikes and kids are going to school. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments tonight.
Good evening, Christine Schindler, East Encinitas resident. So I just wanted to come to give an update about bike education. So Nick Buck's here, so I appreciate that, our new mobility manager. I wanted to let you know that the city stepped up in a big way for bike education. City cycling classes last month, we actually had 3. So on 3 consecutive Saturdays, there's such a high demand that they did an extra class last month, and we have 2 coming this month, and then it might be a bit lighter because of November and December for obvious reasons. But I do want to acknowledge and thank the city for stepping up and doing this education. I want to also make you aware of, if you're not already, that our school districts are, they have a policy now that requires some bike education in order to get a parking permit at all the elementary schools and the middle schools. Not the case at high schools because of the logistics of it all. However, they are still doing education. So I want to acknowledge Mr. Kevin with the San Diego County Bike Coalition, who's doing the vast majority of these school assemblies. And also invite you all, it's on a Wednesday, it conflicts with the city council meeting, but SDA is having a parent and student bike education event on Wednesday, the 18th of October from 6 to 7 p.m. And it's open to all comers. So it's going to be, they're doing some outreach across all the school districts, certainly across San Diego Union High School District, to get as many people to come. But it's also open to the wider community. So I would encourage you to come see the information that's being presented. And that's it. Thanks so much for your service.
Thank you for your comments tonight. Does that wrap up our speakers? Okay, great, thank you. So we can now move on to agenda item 6, which is special presentations and proclamations. And I think our next one is a mobility update.
Thank you, Chair. This is Abe, City Traffic Engineer. We are waiting for our senior planner. He will be here tonight. I messaged him earlier. He should be here soon. If possible, can we start with 6B and then do 6A after?
Great idea. Perfect transition. I think that might answer some questions we have happening here this evening as well. Traffic Sergeant Jeremy Collis is here. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Do you want to present anything? Did you have anything to share with us, or would you just like us to ask you questions?
We do have our usual stats for the month. The one thing I did want to share, just we were going over some stats earlier today. Collisions with e-bikes specifically are up slightly, and that's likely due to the school being back in session. And also DUI collisions are up. This actually seems to be the time of the year when those are going up. So just a couple statistics I saw that I figured I'd share. Also, another stat that I've recently came upon was that, talking about SDA, we have estimated 350 e-bikes that actually go to SDA every day, as well as 150 e-bikes at Oakcrest, and that's just 2 schools. So that's a large amount of e-bikes every day, which is great. And we didn't see that a few years ago. There was not even anywhere close to that many bikes going to school, and it's a good thing. But I figured I'd just share those numbers that I found.
Thank you. That's great. Commissioners, anybody have any questions? Commissioner Thiele?
Sergeant Collis, thanks for the info. And sorry, I missed the number of e-bikes to Oakcrest. How many were those? And that's our middle school?
Correct,
Yep.
off Bloor, and that's estimated about 150 e-bikes.
150. Right, and that's 7th and 8th graders.
Right, middle school, correct. Yep.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Any other commissioners, questions, comments? I actually have a quick question if nobody else is jumping in. Abe, I think that I had Amanda send just a document to you. Could you pull that up? So, Sheriff.
This is it, right?
Yeah, that's perfect. Sheriff, this was the map that used to be included along with the data. And I do know that there is a map that is currently included with the data packet, but I really liked this old format, and I'm wondering if this is something that can also just be added. I hate to make more work, and we do so appreciate that you have pulled out the data for us in the formats that we've asked. But this also gives us a quick snapshot, so bless you. Bless you. And I think it might help just the citizens also. You know, we had some comments here, a lot of comments about Santa Fe tonight and SDA, and when you look at a map like this, it lets you see how many accidents and citations were actually occurred in those areas. And I know it's in the other data, but it's just a little harder. I was having a hard time figuring out where they were. So sorry, go ahead.
The reason why we stopped using this map is because this is auto-generated, so it's actually no work at all. I could easily get this to you. The problem is it's auto-generated on the second third of the month, and all the collisions and citations are not inputted yet. And so this is skewed information. It's not correct. So oftentimes there's probably, this one's on the first of the month, there's probably an additional 100 or so citations that each one has to be manually inputted into our report writing system by our secretary. As well as the collisions. Some collisions are still being written by deputies. Investigations are continuing. So that's why we don't show this information. I'll be happy to give it to you because it is still produced. I can easily send it to Amanda. It's easily done, but.
I think that would be great. I realize it won't be complete, but I think it would give us a quick snapshot, and then the following month, right, would have the additional data. Is that what you're saying, or no?
No, it's just from the first of the month to the last of the month that's inputted at that time. And so there's a bunch of citations and collisions that basically miss the cutoff for that capture of data, if that makes sense. So like right now, my secretary is currently inputting tickets for last month. And so the tickets, and this was auto-generated, so the tickets that she's putting in now will never be captured in this map.
Okay. Is there a way then to just have the map, like, you can give us the map from the previous month, and then, like, if I asked you to create September's map, or I guess this September data, whatever, the month previous, could
Yeah,
you
I'm-
do that and include all of it, or no?
I can't.
Okay.
But I can have my analysts potentially do that. I'll ask Tim
Okay.
if that's something that they could do.
That would be great. I realize it wouldn't match the data in the other part of the packet, but it would also be really helpful to just be able to look back and see where the accidents had been, because just being able to see this snapshot, I think, it was really helpful for me, because we could see where the accidents were and where the tickets were being written, and I think it was helpful. So I would appreciate that. Thank you. And then I guess my last question is, did you see any specific areas in Encinitas? I know that Lucadia Boulevard, La Costa, Encinitas, and Santa Fe have high collisions out of those four. I'm just not sure I could see which one had the most collisions in the last month, or is that something, when I look at the data, I just couldn't tell exactly.
I mean, I could tell you where most of our DUI collisions are right now.
Okay, where are those?
That's generally around the area of Via Molina, Encinitas, El Camino Real, Via Canabria, that kind of, I guess if you kind of drew a circle about a mile, that would be kind of where most of our DUI collisions are occurring currently. There's obviously, outside of that, there's a lot too, but
Okay.
that's a lot of them seem to be in that general area.
Okay, and I think we only had 3 bike and car collisions this month, if I look, total, I think.
3 bike versus car.
Yeah, bike versus car, yeah. But I do think, was there one I didn't see reported on here? I thought that maybe last week there had been a bike and car collision at La Costa and 101. Was it last week or the week before? That was, yeah, I think there was a really, not a pretty severe one, but I don't know that I saw it on this data. Do you?
I'm not sure. It could have been in the Carlsbad's area. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
This file, sorry to interrupt, this
Yeah.
file says it's for August. So I think we're about a month behind or so. So the date that you're saying seems like that's in September, so.
Yes, it was. Thank you. We're looking at the August data.
Yeah, and the e-bikes and the DUI collisions I'm speaking of is actually September data.
Okay,
No.
okay. But that I did not realize that. Thank you. I thought we were looking at last month's data, but we're 2 months behind.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I should have read closer. It does say August right there. Okay, thank you. So no wonder that's not on there. Okay. I am done with questions. Anybody else? Commissioner Thiele?
I have another question. Why do you think that that particular area on El Camino Real where DUIs are happening, is that a concentration, or do you, or can you give your opinion on why that area is concentrated? For DUI, for those
Yeah, I don't
citations?
know if it's, I'd have to look at it further to
Yeah,
to really, I don't want to speculate.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
Sheriff Collison, apologies if you covered this last month. What was the conclusion on the investigation into the hit and run on the death of the teenager on the bike?
The hit and run?
In June, sorry, not hit and run, the collision in June involving the e-bike rider. Was there a summary of the investigation?
Yeah, the investigation is complete. And do you want me to speak of it?
Yeah, just curious.
So essentially, it was found that the driver of the vehicle was not at fault.
Okay, thank you for sharing that conclusion. Any others? Okay. Thanks again for being here. We really appreciate it. I have some questions later in Commissioner's Corner, so I'm glad you're here. I think we're now back on to 6A, the mobility element update, and we have a presentation this evening.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we have our senior mobility planner, Evan Jednick, here tonight with us. Thank you, Evan. You can take over. You probably can use the mouse too. Was it no? Yes, it here. I thought it was okay. Oh, it says staff PC is not up.
Yes. Good evening, commissioners, members of the public. Evan Jednack, Senior Mobility Planner, here tonight to present a status update on the Mobility Element Update project. So the purpose of tonight's presentation is a high-level overview of the Mobility Element Update. It's been ongoing for about 2 years. I gave a presentation to this commission in June 2021 to introduce this project. Since then, we've had 3 public workshops. We've done a couple of presentations to the Planning Commission and City Council. We've also endured some lengthy delays on this project, as I'll describe, but it's getting back on track. So I wanted to start by showing this overview slide, which was also included in the commission's meeting packet for tonight. So this illustrates the different parts of the mobility element and how they all work together. So it's based on a tiered hierarchy of documents, the top level being the actual element. So the element provides high-level goals and policies. It defines street types with a road classification network map. And so while the element is at the top of the hierarchy, you can see it differs down to the mobility analysis guidelines, or MAGs as we're calling them, for further guidance. So an example of this, many of the policies will ultimately make direct reference to the MAGs instead of calling out specific metrics in the policies. So the MAGs are made up of several documents, as you can see here, including the VMT guidelines, the LMA guidelines, which deal with level of service. There'll be tables of street types, classifications, vehicular capacities, including lanes and median types. There'll also be a series of cross-sections here for all classified street types. So while the goals and policies are more the high-level language, the MAGs will encompass the highly technical parts of the project. And so while the MAGs are the middle tier, they differ down further to the adopted multimodal plans and standards. So examples of these plans include the Active Transportation Plan, or ATP, the recent MAP implementation plan for the ATP, things like Cross Connect, Local Roadway Safety Plan, Vision Zero, Public Road Standards, etc. So as you'll see in the text along the left side, the top two tiers are within the scope of the mobility element, and the multimodal plans and standards, so those are all separate projects. And the reason to organize the project in this way is so that when something like the VMT guidelines or the LMA guidelines or cross-sections need to be updated in the future, the entire element doesn't need to be updated, as that would require Coastal Commission approval, a much longer approval process. So regarding goals and policies, again, these are meant to provide very high-level policy guidance. Staff has been working with our consultant team and meeting internally with various departments as we draft the goals and policies. At this point, we have a rough draft of the goals, but it's not yet ready for commission review. But I listed here the draft goal topics. It includes mobility system purpose and guiding principles, multimodal options, vehicle miles traveled and mode share, system connectivity, system safety, environmental and community impacts. So these are just the topics for each goal, and each goal will have several related policies to support it. So as mentioned, we're not quite ready to share the goals and policies yet, working on finishing those, but it is something that we intend to present to this commission at a later point to get feedback before then proceeding to Planning Commission and City Council. So as mentioned, the VMT guidelines will be part of the MAGs from the earlier slide. So as some of you already know, vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, replaced level of service, or LOS for CEQA purposes. So now instead of measuring environmental impacts based on how congested the roads are, we measure it based on how many vehicle miles are being traveled. The guidelines identify VMT analysis methodologies. It establishes thresholds for CEQA impacts and identifies potential mitigation strategies. I don't want to touch into too much detail on the VMT guidelines tonight, as it is highly technical, but they will be a part of the element within the MAGs, and the VMT guidelines are going to City Council on November 8th. So I can't talk about the mobility element project tonight without mentioning traffic modeling. So the traffic modeling component of this project has had some unfortunate implications on the project timeline, as I'll describe. So the city originally began scoping with Sandag for traffic modeling, and we were in their modeling queue starting in August of 22. However, in September of 22, the Sandag board ordered an amendment to their regional plan to remove the controversial road user charge. This ultimately resulted in about a 1-year delay in Sandag's modeling services. And not only did the modeling get delayed for a year, but when Sandag resumed its modeling service, it was with the road user charge still included, even though it was officially removed from the regional plan. So the model version Sandag is using is not accurate because it includes several large mobility projects in its assumptions that would have been funded by the road user charge. So the fact that Sandag resumed modeling with the charge included is problematic for CEQA purposes because it doesn't result in a reasonably foreseeable model, which that reasonably foreseeable language comes directly from CEQA. So after realizing the full extent of this predicament, staff began exploring other options. We ultimately decided to have a transportation planning firm, Fair and Peers, conduct the traffic modeling instead of Sandag. So Fair and Peers was already a sub-consultant on this project working on the VMT guidelines, and they are able to run a version of the traffic model without the road user charge. Therefore, it's more accurate. The traffic modeling runs with Fair and Peers have been completed, and now they are just working on post-processing and preparing a memo with the findings, and this will include both the VMT and LOS data. So once the traffic modeling is complete, we can resume with the preparation of the environmental impact report, and this will really get the project back on track for completion. That being said, here is an updated schedule for the completion of the project. This fall, we are currently working on the things I've described tonight, the adoption of the VMT guidelines, wrapping up the traffic modeling and the goals and policies. The consultant is working on the non-traffic sections of the EIR, and we're working on drafting the final document in the MAGs. So as soon as modeling is done, we will proceed with drafting the rest of the EIR this winter. In the spring, we will begin public review of the EIR, and our new target for adoption is now next summer. And as iterated, this schedule is all kind of dependent on when we can wrap up the traffic modeling. So this was, kind of a high-level overview. There weren't any really recent milestones we hit recently, but I did want to explain, the traffic modeling delay that we've endured, as I'm sure you've probably been wondering what's going on with this project. But like I said, we're looking to get it back on track and hopefully full steam ahead from here. But that being said, that wraps up my presentation here, so I can take any questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Do we have any speakers from the public?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Oh.
Yes, on this topic. Okay. Commissioners, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Evan, for your report. So, update. So, I have a question about the replacement of the LS. So, one of the critics of criticism of LS was that it's going carbs.
Jim, we can't hear you. Can you move your mic towards your mouth? There we go.
Okay, how's this?
No.
Well, I have the green light.
I know. I just think this needs to be closer to your mouth.
I'm actually swallowing it now.
don't know what's
I don't really want
happening.
to swallow it, but maybe I'll just speak louder. Is this better?
There we go.
Okay, let me start over again. Thank you, Evan, for your presentation. I hope you can hear me now. So, about the LOS, I think one of the criticisms of LOS was that it only counts for cars. It doesn't count for other road users, such as pedestrians and bikes. There was that one-time talk of MMLOS, multimodal LOS. I guess that's not on the table anymore. So the new one, VMT, does that take into account other road users besides cars?
Well, they're really different concepts. You know, LOS is a measurement of the congestion of the road. VMT is measuring purely, you know, how many miles are being traveled. So it's really kind of a paradigm shift in how we're looking at how environmental impacts are being measured. So LOS, it's not going away. So it just the law, the CEQA law, California Environmental Quality Act, says that we can no longer use LOS for CEQA purposes. So VMT must be used for CEQA purposes. So we can still use LOS for general plan consistency, and we intend to. So we intend to have, you know, the policies will refer down to the local mobility analysis guidelines, which will be part of the MAGs, which will talk about LOS. And so projects will still have to take that into consideration. There has been talk of other kind of similar LOS measures. I think one of them's, I think level of comfort is what they're now using, pedestrian level of comfort and bike level of comfort. So those are kind of the similar equivalents to LOS for other modes. And those can be taken into account too. But again, the CEQA significant impact thresholds, that can only look at VMT.
Okay, but still, for road design, then LOS is still your figure of merit of a change in infrastructure? Is there still ignorance of other road users?
No, so we can take into account like the pedestrian and bicycle level of comfort, and that'll be the equivalent of LOS, but for the other modes.
Saying that you can take into account doesn't mean that you will. I mean, it has to be implemented in a concrete manner. Just saying that you may take into account is not sufficient.
I mean, we can make it very clear in the goals and policies. You know, the goals and policies are all written to basically encourage other modes of transportation. And so, you know, if that's, you know, a comment that, you know, we want to add specifically a policy that says that pedestrian bike level of comfort should be, you know, prioritized over car level of service, you know, that's something that we could put in there.
Well, given the public comments we had just today and the volume of e-bikes which the sheriff kindly provided us, it seems like you pretty much have to because they are becoming a significant part of our traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So you are ignoring those, you're leaving a big hole.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems
Understood.
like it hasn't been taken into account when this was written and needs to be.
Well, like I said, we're still drafting the goals and policies, you know, so that, and you know, that they will take all of this into account.
And so that will be seen in the final, maybe, given appropriate public comment? Is that how it works?
Not sure exactly how it'll unfold. We were thinking that once we have the goals and policies more refined and at least have an internal final draft, then we can bring that to this commission for your comment, you know, kind of separate from the final project.
So in the goals and policies, I didn't see anything about mode shift. Of course, that's very general, but is mode shift part of goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just listed off the topics of 6 of the goals. So those weren't the actual goals. You know, the goals will be written in a way to achieve a goal. And each goal has anywhere from, you know, 8 to 15 policies underneath it, each with its own separate subject matter. So yeah, mode shift will absolutely be included in the goals and policies. Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have anything more kind of concrete to share with you all tonight. But that's something that we could return within the future to really have the commission, you know, take a stab at, you know, and get your feedback on the policies.
Okay, so I suppose, you know, I did notice you had system connectivity in your goals. And hopefully that applies to all modes, because as one of our.
Yeah, it will.
mentioned, there are some holes in, say, the bike connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
That's also important for mode shift as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I do hope you take these into account.
Yeah, again, the primary purpose of this document is to facilitate, encourage other modes. You know, there's nothing in this document that will, you know, talk about widening streets for vehicular capacity or anything like that. You know, we are intending for this to be a mobility-focused document, you know, and all modes included.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, Glenn Johnson here. One of the public comments that we got just before the meeting was from a resident who's used in the past, I guess we'd call them electric golf cart vehicles. Those are limited to 35 miles per hour on public streets, but that's a mode of transit that is very attractive to many people. And if we had a policy that would include such lower speed vehicles in our major roads, that would be a good alternative here as far as mode shift.
Thank you, commissioners, for your comments. Anybody else? Any other commissioners? Commissioner Thiele?
I just have a question for Evan. So do you have a time frame for the completion date for the traffic modeling?
You know, it'll probably be complete. Let's see. Your staff's working on the counts right now for those holes. Yeah, that one's probably 2 weeks. Okay. Yeah, so we're wrapping up. There were a couple segments of the model that we actually had to go out and take physical counts for, and those should be wrapping up within about 2 weeks from now. Fair and Peers will incorporate that data into their memos, so I'd probably say about a month from now. Hopefully, we can have a final, the final memo with the traffic modeling.
Great, thank you.
Any other commissioners? Okay. Again, thank you so much for your report, and I do hope that you can take Commissioner Wong and Commissioner Johnston's thoughts about bike and pedestrian and even slower electric vehicles into, like, hopefully that can come, when it comes back to us, that will be as part of one of the goals. So I'm hoping to see that in there. So thank you. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Noted those comments down, and yeah, we look forward to sharing the goals and policies with you all soon.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you for your time this evening. Okay, next up, I think, is 7A, if we don't have any other comments. And if you want to speak on that one, did you get your, okay, you got your speaker slip in. Good. Gotcha. Okay, so is there a presentation from engineering here on 7A? It is Assembly Bill 43, Summary and Direction of Future Implementation.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, let me open up the file. What happened to the mouse? Okay, yes, our two action items tonight are kind of connected, so, and they're kind of line up pretty well. AB 43, we have talked about this before. I don't think we had a presentation item on it at commission. Our city council has provided us multiple times clear directions on do our best to implement provisions of AB 43, and following that, Commission also expressed interest multiple times to implement the additional authority that this bill is providing local agencies at our various streets of the city. However, as we'll kind of go over the bill today, there are some limitations to be able to fully implement this. We have to wait until July of 2024. However, there are provisions of the bill that are implementable now. And this is basically, this item is a summary of the AB 43. our plan is to take it to council next week, present it, get some direction from council on how this should be implemented, go to council next February or March based on the direction that we get next week. Obviously, prior to that, we'll come to commission again. Finalize the implementation process February, March, and then implement all our signage and all our documents should be in order so that July 1st, those new speed limits are enforceable by our sheriff's department. That's our plan. So what is AB 43? So as you all know, pretty much forever, the process of establishing a speed limit was always based on 85th percentile speed, prevailing speed. We survey the vehicles on the roadway at a average day at a non-congested situation, usually off-peak period, in an unmarked car with an unnoticeable radar. And then vehicles should not really follow each other, should not be bumper to bumper. A speed of one vehicle should not affect the other vehicle. Basically, a relatively free-flow mode. And then we sort them when 85% of the vehicles on that road comfortably are driving at a speed or below. That speed is the 85th percentile, meaning 85% of the vehicles on that road drive at that speed or lower. Basically, we're relying on our drivers and how they feel comfortable and convenient on a roadway to set speed limits. Obviously, questionable. There are a lot of concerns and questions about why this is the method, but this is a nationwide accepted method. METCD and all FHWA guidelines use the same methodology. What city officials had before was only the option of lowering the speed limit by 5 miles after rounding it. So we had to get to the 85th percentile based on the survey. If it was 42, it would round to 40. If it was 43, it would round to 45, just simple math. And then the city traffic engineer had the authority to lower it by 1 5-mile-per-hour increment if there were conditions, such as not apparent to drivers, obviously, like if there is no sidewalk, if there is no bike lane, if there is a school around, if there is something, or if there are lots of collisions for various reasons. And we have been utilizing that since I was here the past 5-6 years with the city. The legislature started changing things. The purpose of that was to give city officials more power, more authority. The simplest way that this changed is, I will kind of go over the details, but the big bullets, I guess, of this is from July 24, I will have an additional 5-mile reduction. So we could round, apply 1 5-mile-per-hour reduction, and then an additional 5-mile-per-hour reduction. So in a way, our speed limit could be 12 miles per hour less than our 85th. If it's 37, it will round to 35, and then we can drop it by 10. So a total of 12 mile below the 85th percentile. Now, obviously, it has to be justified. The process, these are the vehicle codes that were changed. The changes to the California Vehicle Code is already in place. The new CVC already incorporated AB 43 changes. And the California Vehicle Code was also the revision 7 of the 2014 METCD was changed based on the California Vehicle Code changes. So the new revision of METCD has all the provisions of AB 43 already included in there. I'm not going to go through each change. I do have a better document at the end of this file that exactly shows what was added to the language and what was removed. That 5-mile-per-hour, extra 5-mile-per-hour reduction is the first biggest change, I guess. The second change is now we can keep our existing surveys valid, which is, I guess, kind of funny because the legislature says if you do a survey and the speed limit comes higher, you are allowed to not to raise it and keep your previous survey valid for the main purpose of basically keeping the streets safer but keeping lower speed limits. But to allow us not to, we're not allowed to keep it basically. We have to do a survey when our surveys expire, but if it comes up higher, now we can go back to the previous survey. So that's one new addition to this. Another addition is that Before we had this 5-year, 7-year, 10-year windows for our speed surveys. Surveys automatically expire at 5 years. We're allowed to keep them up to 7. We can extend them if it was conducted with a licensed professional and calibrated radar. And then we could keep them up to 10 year if nothing changed on that road. No additional striping change, no additional intersection control. If nothing changes on that road, we could keep our surveys valid up to 10 years, and the survey would stand in court. It would be defensible. The judge would accept it. With the new AB 43, now the upper limit is 14, so we can keep a survey valid up to 14 years. Another change is the business district introduction, business activity district. We had something similar. The code has changed, and now we have a very clear definition of what a business district is, and our second item tonight is about that. There are some other changes. Now we have the option to have a 20 mile per hour or a 15 mile per hour prima facie speed limit on different roads based on a survey. That's also new. And there is obviously the language of how we can utilize this additional 5 mile per hour reduction by explaining safety corridors, which is a new term, and then also this, by selecting roadways that have facilities that generate high bikes and pits. This is a language of the bill. I'm not going to read all the bill language, but the CVC changes. So this is the attachment 2 talks about the CVC changes. I do have the old and new language, and then red and green are the ones that basically change. So where you don't see any color means the new code is exactly identical. So this green piece here is new. Nothing quantifiable. It's just explaining what AB 43 did to CVC. The purpose of that is basically giving more consideration to different pedestrian groups for their enhanced safety. So this piece really doesn't change anything in our approach. This piece was removed from code 21400. This is the old code that said how we should round and just reduce it by a maximum of 5. This code was modified in a different code, but this piece of the CVC was removed. That kind of limited us to 1 5-mile reduction. This code, very simple, just the flagman word was changed to flag person. Nothing major here. This is the part where California Department of Transportation now can have 20 and 15. Obviously, these will not happen on freeways, but on a state-owned property, there are some state routes in county areas, so they are now allowed to do 20 and 15 mile per hour roads based on the survey. We do have, similarly, local authorities now have the same option too. These need to be survey-based. So this is a whole new code, 22358.6. This is a new code that says now we can round, and then we can do an additional 5-mile increment, and then the 22358.7 and 22358.8 are the criteria that would allow us to lower by an additional 5. So the piece that was removed about rounding and lowering by only one time 5 mile is pasted here, but then there is additions to it that says we can do more. And this is the big piece that talks about how we define our safety corridors, and these safety corridors would be approved by council, I think through an ordinance, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a resolution. It cannot be more than 25% of the total length of the corridors of the city, but the council can choose 25%, basically 1/4 of the city, tag it as safety corridors. How it's chosen, there are some guidelines in METCD, mostly obviously talks about collision history, but the language is somewhat flexible, so it doesn't need to have above a certain threshold of high collision. It doesn't need to have a major history of collisions or severe injury or fatality. It does say try to choose the safety corridor off of that, but it does give us flexibility to choose this safety corridor list of the city. The second one is this 22358 talks about how we can implement this new reduction, but then we have to give warnings for 30 days. to the, I don't think we had this before. Yeah, we didn't have this before. So even if we changed the speeds before, it would, the same day that the new speed limit sign went in, it was enforceable, driver would get a ticket. But with this new, if we utilize that second 5-mile reduction, now the violations for the first 30 days would be warning citations. The second one is about the changes about business activity district that we will talk a little bit more on the second item. So this is the new language that was added, how a roadway can become a business activity district. And if it becomes a business activity district without a survey, we are allowed to declare a 25 or a 20 speed limit on it. Paragraph 2 talks about it. It has to have a maximum of 4 lanes of traffic. If it's a posted 30, immediately prior or after this segment, we can make it 25. If it's posted 25 mile per hour before and after this segment, we can make it 20. Basically, this limits our options. There was this conversation, I think, at the city council, or maybe it was here at the commission, that why not El Camino Real? There is a business area in El Camino Real. Why not utilize it as a business district? So this says it has to have a maximum of 30 at the immediate adjacent segment. So since we don't have any 30s on El Camino, I don't think we have any, we cannot really make it 25 business district. It has to touch a 30 mile per hour speed limit segment. And how it can be identified as a business activity, that's paragraph B, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. They talk about the description of what that segment should have. I think it has to meet 3 out of 4, if I'm not mistaken. 50% of the property fronting the highway should be retail or dining. There has to be parking on the roadway. The traffic signals on that segment has to be less than 600 feet apart. And we should have crosswalks that are marked but not controlled by a traffic control device. I think it says 3 out of 4 has to be met for us to be able to implement. And similarly, when a business activity district, the speed limit is implemented 25 or 20, the first 30 days would be warning citations. That's pretty much the gist of AB 43. This is the 10-year that I mentioned. It's converting to 14-year. And then the definition of senior zone has changed. This was already in CVC, so it's just the minor change in the language. And then the business activity district was also redefined. This was already in CVC, now it's a little redefined. So the goal tonight, and similarly next week at council, is to get input from council on how they would like to see AB 43 implemented. I did mention about the safety corridors and the fact that we're limited. I do not remember the exact number. I think our staff surveyed, not surveyed, but calculated the length of the roadways in the city. I think we have about 34 miles that we can implement as safety corridors. Yeah, I don't see. I think it's about 34 miles. So we have local roads. We have residential roads that are 25. We can survey those and bring them to 20. We have a lot of roads that are residential that are 25 prima facie. This new AB 43 now allows us to conduct a survey there and utilize our option to lower them to 20, maybe even 15. But then we have that 25% safety corridor maximum. We have our other roads that obviously are faster. We have 30, 35, 40, 45, and leave our residentials, the 25s, aside for now. We have some roads that are not necessarily residential, like we have roads, well, they're like Requesa per se. It's not a residential, but it's 25. How do we tackle implementing this extra 5-mile reduction when we want to create that safety corridor and present it to commission and council? And as I said, we do have the option of implementing it on our 25 mile per hour residential roads too. And then the second one that talks about locations with high concentration of bikes and peds, we do have the option of using that. So we can do a mixture. Maybe we can start by identifying all the roads that would qualify as being adjacent to high concentration of bikes and peds. Those are safe. Those don't need to be included in the 25% of the total network for the safety corridors. We just take that, apply the 5 mile reduction on those, and then on the leftovers, we just do our 25% safety corridor. Again, it's a little bit of a game that we have to play to maximize, but then again, that might not be and the good thing is we have our sergeant here tonight too, so it might not be the goal of the commission to do it everywhere for the purpose of being able to do before-after evaluations. It might be better to focus first. So those are all the, I'm just thinking loud. These are the different things that came to us, and we thought it would be great to pick commission's brain first and then council later, and then in March we'll come back with whatever direction we receive here and next week, and we'll say, okay, based on the direction you gave us, these are the 50 roads of the city that the speed limits on those would have to change. Council approves it, first reading of the ordinance, second reading of the ordinance, and then we'll order the signs, install them in June, and July 1st they'll be able to enforce. So that's the plan. Sorry if it went long. I wanted to kind of explain, and it kind of, again, touches on the second report too, so the second one would be easier. I'm open to questions, Chair.
Thank you so much for the report. I just was thinking maybe we should go to our public speakers first, and then commissioners can ask questions and clarifications, if that sounds good. I know we've got one for sure.
We have two.
Okay, we've got two.
We have Judy Burlfine, followed by Elena Thompson.
Hi, I'm Judy Burlfine. Thank you, Abe, for your report. Wow, yeah, it's kind of a game. I guess we have to think of it that way. So I think all of you probably agree with what I want to say. The speeds are too fast in the city. It's unsafe. I think, don't want to be too snarky, but we have 25% safety corridor. So does that mean we have 75% unsafety corridor? How people get around on foot and on bikes and stay safe has everything to do with speed. And when we talk about Brody's death and who was at fault, it wasn't Brody and it wasn't the car. It was the way we've set up the situation for everyone. So the slower we can get the speeds, the better. Right now, El Camino Real is a freeway with driveways. Whether you're going to a store or you're going to your home, you still need to get there. So I don't know why we go slowly in business districts and then we speed up when they're homes and churches and synagogues and community colleges. So I'm kind of just venting because it's amazing to me that we have cars going 55 miles per hour where we have people walking and cycling. Anything we can do to lower the speeds, the more we can do it, the better. My 2 cents on, I'd love it if everything was 20 miles per hour, but if we have our neighborhoods all at 25 and we can use our 25% for those bigger roads that are so dangerous, that would be my vote. Thank you for doing the hard work. Thank you, Abe.
Thank you for your comments tonight.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elena Thompson, and I live in Leucadia, and I've been involved with this group, and it's nice to see new faces, so thank you for serving. I've been involved because I was part of Bike Walk Encinitas as a co-founder for over 7 years, and we have new leaders of that group now, so we're thankful for that. But my feeling is this is a no-brainer for you all tonight, and number one, yes to 7A and 7B. And number two, I think the best way to help Abe prioritize and fast start this, because we have been talking about it for 10 years, Vision Zero, reducing speeds in our town, having fewer people maimed on our roads and killed through collisions that were unnecessary. But the priorities I'd like to suggest here tonight is to focus on the fastest roads. Look at, Abe should have those, what are the fastest speed limits, okay, and prioritize that. Then look at what are the most dangerous. Overlay that with where the sheriff has put together the nice report of where we've seen most of those critical accidents. And that's number 2. And number 3, focus on the main corridors. And those are east-west, La Costa Avenue, Leucadia Boulevard, Encinitas Avenue. It's simple. And then our north-south corridors, El Camino Real, Vulcan, the 101, okay? So if you can kind of go through that, I think you'll get through the evening quickly, and we'll have some real progress on something we've needed for a really long time. And I'm getting worked up because I've had friends who've been killed on our roadways. Jennings Worley on Leucadia Boulevard, and Roberta Walker almost was killed on the 101. And so we've been talking about this for so long. And I'm actually kind of surprised, Abe, that something that was approved in September of 2021, AB 43, is only coming up tonight. So with that, I would just say encore, let's get it done. Don't delay, and I think we can probably even have the finished product on these prioritized roadways sooner than July if we really work through a list and not bite off too much and focus again on the items I mentioned. So let's get it done. Thank you. We're here to help.
Thank you for your comments tonight. Commissioners, and I just was going to give Ava just a quick moment to just maybe explain why this just came up. I know that it had been going through legal process, and I know you've been looking at AB 43 for a long time, so it's not like you put it on the back burner. Wasn't this just the first time you were able to bring it to commission?
Yes, Chair. Unfortunately, after 3 years, I still don't understand this code. But the simple problem is obviously after the AB 43 passed, our sheriff folks, they don't enforce our assembly bills, they enforce CVC. So the first round was the language of CVC had to change, and CVC obviously changes once a year. It had to be incorporated into CVC, and then the CVC 90% of the time doesn't go into the minutia of the code. It does not give you like the language, okay, safety corridor found its way next year into the CVC, or high concentration of bikes and peds. But what does that mean? How would the city local officials interpret that safety corridor to implement? That mandated an update into California Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, MUTCD, to say, per CVC new code that was updated based on the Assembly Bill 43, this is what safety corridor mean, and this is how you're supposed to implement it. On top of that, the code that basically blocked everything is this code, something C22358.7, which I don't know what it means. It says a local authority may not lower a speed limit as authorized by this section until June 30, 2024, which is from the day the bill was passed. This date was there. This date never changed from 2021 when Assembly Bill 43 was passed. This June 30, 2024 was in there. Or until a judicial council has developed an online tool for adjudicating infraction. Well, this is the part I don't understand what it means. So supposedly this could have happened, but something had to happen for this to be able to be enforced. But this, I'm checking with other street traffic engineers, nobody did that. It doesn't look like it's maybe Sergeant can? Yeah, so nobody knows what this means, but it hasn't happened. So we're waiting until June 30, 2024.
So thank you. So basically, we're going as fast as we can. So we're
even going faster. Like
Yes.
technically, like I have heard some cities that their councils cannot approve new speed limits. We want to go to council February, March, and ask council basically post-date and approval to tell us, Abe, go lower speed limits on these roads based on AB 43, knowing the fact that it's not enforceable until July 1st, 2024. which again is a technicality that our attorney might at that point said, no, you're not supposed to do that. But because of the fact that we have first reading of the ordinance, usually a month after it's a second reading, we need a month or two. We are talking about probably 40, 50 different roads, changing all those different speed limit signs. There are pavement legends on the ground that we have to grind out and replace with a new. So there's a lot of work. That's why we're kind of going 3-4 months in advance. So on July 1st, our folks can start writing those, I guess, citations, warning citations for now.
Thank
The
you.
first
for-
30 days would be warning
Thank you for being
citations.
ahead of the curve. I really appreciate it. That is fabulous. Okay, commissioners, I'm going to, looks like Commissioner Wong would like to speak, or, okay.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, Elena? So no, you're not allowed to speak anymore, but thank you. I know. You can email us. I'll read it, I promise. Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Wong.
So thank you, Abe, for doing a valiant job trying to explain the nuances of AB 43. You know, it's many pages, and you did a great job. I'm sorry that we have to game the system. It's so complicated. I'm sorry that we had this 85% rule in the first place that's based on drivers saying the speed limit rather than safety. There's nothing about safety in the speed limit. But I'm just griping because there's nothing you or I can do about that. So we have to game the system and take advantage as much as we can of AB 43. And for that, I suggest, what I'd really like is a citywide speed limit of like 30 miles an hour, but I know we can't do that either, is to suggest that we lower the speed limit on the most traffic roads where the speed limit is too high, which is basically Encinitas Real, Coast Highway, all the east-west roads, as people have mentioned, like Santa Fe, Encinitas Boulevard, Arcadia Boulevard. I guess the cost is not ours, but those are all candidates for lowering the speed limit. I think we should do that as much as possible. I don't think of the major roads it adds up to 34. I mean, I don't know exactly, but it doesn't seem like just the major roads. So that might leave some room for other particular ones, such as the ones around schools. I do live near SBA, and as some of our SBA speakers said, a lot of people ride bikes there. As the sheriff also mentioned, 350. So as far as I know, there's all the roads around there do not have bike lanes, except for Santa Fe. And Santa Fe will be changed, but all the roads like Valor, Nardo, Melba, Louisa, Westlake, those could all be lowered as well. Same with Valor. The roads around Capri, they probably already are 25, but again, the slower the better. So those are, I mean, I do have a list of roads. Those are basically just my comments. Okay, I hope you heard what I said.
No, I understand. The PDF that I just opened is every roadway of the city that currently has a speed limit of 30 miles per hour or higher. Obviously, that's a good approach that we thought might come up to start from here. These are all the roads that have 30 or higher. So we will have the opportunity to lower these by 5 miles. So everything, basically one color would be dropped, like 50s become 45s, 45s become 40s. These might end up being more than 34. If let's assume both scenarios. First, is this where we want? So that's exactly what I'm here tonight, and what I'd like to hear from council on next week's presentation too. So we start from here. This is our level 1. Basically, we want to do it here, and then the next tier, if we have room on our 34-mile total, we want to go by the school. So this is what I want commission to discuss. And okay, like we heard from our resident that, well, why not go with the collision history of the city? Go find where we have more collisions, even if it means, it's on 25-mile-per-hour roads. If it's a 25 and we had some collisions on it, why not make it 20? Pedestrian activity, we have roads like Neptune that we converted to 20 already. We have roads that there is high ped activity. We have Cornish behind us. We have the library. People walk on Cornish. It's 25. Do we go there? So that's what I'm after tonight to get. I don't want to push commission for a motion and a second. I do like to have consensus, so when we come back in February, March, to present you something that you all like. But yeah, I would suggest some brainstorming, some discussion similar to what Commissioner Wong started, and then we'll take it from there. If we get to a point where we have like a clear direction, a clear hierarchy of, okay, step 1, do this, Abe, step 2, step 3, these are the roads that we want you to tackle, or no, this is just an idea. Start from high-speed roads, then go to school vicinity, then go to high ped locations, then go to high collision locations, and until you deplete your 34-mile length that you have for your safety corridors. That can be it.
Okay, thanks, Abe, for this map. I think you're a step ahead of me. I think it's a good starting place, and perhaps that's going to be more than 34, but maybe we can pare it down based on traffic. I don't think collision history is necessarily a good idea, because for one, I avoid roads that I think are dangerous, so I wouldn't be on a collision there, but I may want to ride on that road if it were safe. So I discount that as a factor. Otherwise, I think that starting with the roads that are speed limit is over 30, I'd love to do all those. As I said, I like a city speed limit of 30, but I guess we can't. So start with those roads and start paring it down by the roads that are less traveled. Like, I don't think Lone Jack gets that much traffic. I'm not sure, since I don't go there very often, compared to Manchester, El Camino Real. So thanks very much.
Okay, next commissioner, please go ahead.
Is this working?
Yes.
Good. All but Commissioner Wong. Thank you very much, Abe, for the report and the detailed analysis. Got a couple of comments as I look at the map that you put up there. Commissioner Wong mentioned Lone Jack. I would also suggest that segment of Rancho Santa Fe probably doesn't need to be considered. There's so many stop signs there that realistically you can't get up to 40 miles an hour. It just won't happen. So if we have a limited amount of currency to spend on lowering, probably better to look elsewhere. A question I have for you and also for law enforcement is you must have some notion of places that you would look first based on your knowledge and analysis of this. Are there any things that stick out to you folks particularly?
I do, and it looks like the ones that I would right away go to are pretty much covered in this map.
What are they?
Mine would be North El Camino Real. Downtown area. The area of Rancho Santa Fe between Manchester and Encinitas. Lucadia. Santa Fe. Those would be probably my prior, and Encinitas. Those would probably be the blue section there of Encinitas. Would probably be my top areas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Abe, did you have any suggestions on what you think should be priorities?
Not really. We did have some brainstorming in-house at our division. We discussed different options. Our goal, what we ended up deciding, was basically try to maximize, as you mentioned, the currency that we have. So we do like to start with the high concentration of, because the legislature doesn't limit us with the 25% on that one. It does give us criteria of what constitutes a high bike and ped generating facility, and then gives us a radius, I think, around it. So our idea was to start with our GIS team, identify all the roads that would kind of fall into those zones, take those off the map, and then start utilizing our 25, because that area would give us that option. I think we have a good shot at doing a lot. To be honest with you, I'm a little concerned in, like, do we want to do it everywhere? Like, let's say we could do it on all of our residential roads. Is that where we're going? Like, are you interested in, like, let's say I can do 20%, 30% of our residential roads, make them 20 mile per hour, and some of them will remain at 25. Like, we have the whole, like, history of driving. Everybody thinks residentials are 25, and now we have, like, some of the residential roads of the city that we 20. If they become 20, then I would have to post them. Our residential roads currently do not have signs on them. Like, we have to go into different alleys and different minor roads with 100 vehicle per day and then post at 20 mile per hour. And then to emphasize and clarify for the drivers, I would suggest doing legends to, is clear, okay, this road is at 20, it's different from the neighbor road that's parallel to it, that one is still 25. Do we go neighborhood based? Okay, this neighborhood, everything is 20. This other neighborhood, we'll keep it at 25. Do we go like suburb, like Ranch Santa Fe area, we'll leave it at 25. When we get closer to the urban, we do 20. Like, there are a lot of unknowns. We have a good shot at like maximizing this extra 5 mile reduction. But there is also a lot of ambiguities and a lot of, I guess, questions that we have to answer when the time comes.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Johnson here. Abe, I'd like to thank you very much for digging through all the weeds and understanding this law, or this new law. I think we all want to see reduced speed everywhere in terms of safety. I would expect that the major roads, Encinitas Boulevard, El Camino Real, are the first ones to get reduced, along with Manchester, and that as much as possible. The question is, when some of these roads are so wide, the pavement is so wide, they were designed for a different era, I think. And can we narrow the road some and add parking, for instance, on El Camino Real?
By just narrowing the travel lanes, which has been our standard practice these past 5-6 years I've been with the city, usually the amount of width that we open up by narrowing lanes is not enough to really introduce parking. Usually we utilize that extra space to create a bike lane if the bike lane is not existent, or if there is a bike lane, we widen the bike lane or form a buffer using this extra width. Like just recently with our bike emergency projects that commission approved and then later council approved, like we are exactly doing that by narrowing lanes. We're introducing bike lanes on Village Parkway. Doesn't have a bike lane right now, but by narrowing down different travel lanes, we'll have enough to introduce a bike lane on the roadway. Reducing the number of lanes is a whole different approach and a different animal because of the whole environmental and the whole being a coastal zone and the fact that road diet would impact access to the beach, and there are a lot of other factors. The whole environmental evaluation that is required with reducing the number of lanes. That's a different story that I don't think, other than streetscape, we have undertaken any other road diet in the city.
Okay, well, I was thinking in particular South El Camino Real is so darn wide that we could stripe off a portion of it, designate that as parking rather than whatever it is, and encourage the traffic to go a little more slowly. I'd appreciate if we could get all the speed limits in town down to under 35. So, if we can ship it, the places that are right now are speedways, which Encinitas Boulevard and El Camino Real are the worst offenders, along with Manchester. We might achieve some better safety.
Cool.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you for putting this together. I don't know if you all saw, there was a viral video that was out on the internet the last 2 weeks or so. It's a delivery driver who's kind of taking a video of himself going like, I have no idea where I am, but this is insane. And then he whips his phone around and he's at a school and he just shows like there's just e-bikes everywhere, all parked, right? Hundreds of e-bikes. And this went viral nationally because it was in the US. It's kind of a big deal. Has anyone seen that video? Heard about that video? It was Degano Middle School. So turns out it's in Encinitas. And it's this funny delivery driver's like, I guess no one around here wants to drive their kids to school anymore. You know, it's really funny. It's that's what made it go so viral. So, clearly Degano up there. Sheriff Collis just gave us 350 at San Dieguito and then 150 at another middle school. And then, we have kids literally they looked under 18. I assume they're under 18, they're in school, who are like here trying to plead that there's cars in their way to school. I mean, I know when I was that age, I wasn't at a city council meeting pleading for that. So I think we have like this tremendous responsibility here, which is like for the next generation, these kids that are growing up in a place where they're legitimately trying to change modes and move around our city as safely as possible. So I feel a tremendous burden in trying to pick the right streets here without maybe the help of the GIS team to overlay a lot of things, right? Let's overlay the schools, right? We have literally 350 kids going on bikes to schools. That's a huge number of kids every day, right? Where are they going, from what areas are they going from and how are they getting to that school, I think is very important. Looking at density is important, I think, in thinking about these roads. On collision history, the only pitch I'd make, I know you've all heard me before, but when we look at collision history, we should be looking at intersection collision, ways to mitigate that would be with red light cameras, as much as, of course, reducing speed. So I think that's important to look at with collision data, is where are those collisions happening on those big streets. But, I still think we should look at it. Distance from city center, right? The business districts that we do know are important, that are highly traveled to, like what we can hopefully propose in this next item up for around the business district in downtown Encinitas. So all those things I would love to look at more without making a sort of a shotgun approach to exactly which street specifically. Abe, I'd also like to commend you on just all these creative ways that we can, of course, not include certain streets and how we might be able to reduce speeds on certain streets in other ways so that we can, maximize the amount that we're doing. And then to Sheriff Collis, and, not to play the other side of this, but to, when you spoke on data at the emergency meeting we had, you spoke on doing your traffic raids where you had all the officers from North San Diego County came together. As I understood it, the data that you suggested, I think it was on August 29th, when you went out and did that raid, you were basically doing as many speeding tickets as you possibly could, like as long as it took, I would imagine, to write the ticket, then get back in line. And so we know people speed. We know speeding is the major issue. Every month the traffic data comes out, speeding is number one. I'm just curious what we're going to do, because if we're going to enforce speeding, one, if we wanted to, you probably could hire as many officers as you wanted and they'd be able to write tickets all day. But now we're going to reduce speeds. It's going to take a while to go back to it. And I will also commend what Commissioner Johnson said, like these streets were designed in a different era. Oftentimes, the data shows Strong Towns does a great job showing this data. People go as fast as the streets allow them to go. That's what the 85th percentile comes from. That's how we've always worked. If we want to slow people down, they're not bad people. We might actually need to, enforcement's important, but in the 3 E's of education, enforcement, engineering, we probably should think about ways to slow people down. I'll go back and cite the idea that the city council approved taking out red light traffic cameras because people were getting too many fines. They were probably under pressure for that. This will happen again. There's way too many people speeding, we know that. We reduce the speeds, more people will get more fines, that will upset the public. That could lead to us repealing or rolling back what are really important things. So that's not a question or anything, just a suggestion to think about. How will we enforce this? Will we add more police? How will we educate? And potentially, how will we engineer to slow these streets down to what we think are the appropriate speeds to create a safe environment?
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Thiele?
I do have a couple comments. Abe, thank you so much for filtering this information for us. And this map is great, and I agree with that. The map with the 30-plus mile an hour speed limit, kind of focus on those. But absolutely, the schools schools and route to schools must be a priority. We have kids traversing the district, coming from various neighborhoods, and they use El Camino Real. They use Leucadia Boulevard and Santa Fe, as we heard earlier. And so it's a priority, absolutely, and that's got to be in the top two for sure. And my question to you is, if we take Santa Fe, for example, since that was brought to our attention with the SDA students, if you could give like one or two scenarios, I don't know what the speed limit is there, but if it's 35, for example, and you do your data and you get 85th at 37 or whatever the number is, and then could it be reduced to 25, or what are a couple of different scenarios that you envision?
As said, a maximum of 12 is possible. With the AB 43, well, let's say 37. Let's just do an experiment. We do 85th comes back at 37. For the first 5 mile reduction, I have to, on my report, I have to have one paragraph. I usually try to write at least one paragraph, like 3-4 lines of justification of situations not apparent to drivers. I usually go by, well, there is a school here. This route is used by non-commuters, non-residents. They might not know there is a school and kids cross here. There are a lot of e-bikes here on this road. People are not familiar with the roads of Encinitas that have a lot of e-bikes. There has been lots of collisions here on this road. The past 5 years history shows there has been 12 collisions, for example. We have the history. And these are usually reasonable for judges that, okay, well, these make sense. The history of collisions, the school that's here, the number, these cannot be apparent to drivers. But if I have a bike lane in there that is buffered, clearly delineated, it would be tough to use that justification to say, well, there's bike activity. The judge would say, well, okay, but you have a bike lane that's buffered, that's protected. This is not something that's not apparent to the driver. So that's the first 5 mile reduction that I can utilize to lower. So 37 rounds to 35, let's say I can make it 30. AB 43 now gives me an additional 5 mile reduction option. But for this one, I would have to have one of the two documents. One is it on the safety corridors map of the city? That's something that council would have to approve. 25% of the total length of the roads of the city. We would have to pick and choose these roads based on, there is a criteria, what I said, MUTCD criteria is kind of fluid. It was smartly written to give cities a little bit more flexibility in choosing that. And the second one that is a little bit more stringent is that, is this road on the map of the city that says close to high concentration of bikes and pets, which our schools obviously fall into that second category. So we can have zones around each one of our schools that would have this extra 5 mile reduction. Kind of building up on what you just said. So is this, because I heard a school from multiple commissioners, so is this what you like to, I just want to give you a relatively clear picture. We would have areas, zones in the city around our schools that our residentials are 20. Now, how far we can go, obviously, will be limited by the language of MUTCD, but let's say it allows us to do 500 feet from each concentration point of bikes and peds to lower 5 mile per hour extra. Do we want, is this something that commission likes to see, even though it would be a little bit weird? Like, imagine somebody's driving one residential road, let's say you're on Nardo. You're going up, first block of Nardo is 20 because it was within that range, and then the next block of Nardo now becomes 25 again. Like, these are cases that it would meet the code. It should be defensible. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Like, these guys would know after a couple of months if we have flaws in the way we designed this at court. But is this something like having some 20s and some 25s in the city based on this train of thought? Is that something that?
Well, I mean, I'll answer. I think that's okay because we already also have zones like that on Saxony. Like, we lowered, it, and we've shown it works. And I think it was a great idea. We have the flashing lights there just when it was first put in, but I'm not saying we need to do that at all of the school zones. But people are flexible, and I think people know when you enter a school zone, you slow down, and now they'll just know that it's, okay, it's 20 in schools instead of 25. I mean, that's my opinion, just to answer your question, and I'll let you go, but I don't know if anybody else feels the same.
Yes. Abe, thanks for, making this decipherable so we can understand these state laws. My concerns are, well, first of all, I think we need to prioritize, what we're talking about doing here. I don't think it would be a good idea to make too many changes all at once. So I think we need to prioritize what is the most important, and I think it's around schools. And I totally support having some kind of radius within that school where we would have, a 20 mile per hour zone. The next two that I think are the most important are the business districts, and I think, Highway 101 to have that as a business district and have people slow down, because that's an area where you have a lot of people trying to cross the street. So, that would be my second highest priority, and then the El Camino Real area, probably from like Encinitas Boulevard up to Leucadia Boulevard to turn that into a business district. So, I support everything, but I get a little concerned about trying to do too much too quickly with, how the general community is going to take this and, whether they understand, the new rules. So, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple thoughts as well. I agree with Commissioner Gross. Just about every statement he said, I completely agree with. In that, I really feel like these should be data-driven decisions, and I do also agree with Trouth, Commissioner Trouth. I don't want to butcher it. That I don't want to make too many changes and get a backlash, but I also feel like this is an amazing opportunity. So I guess I think our decisions should be data-driven in that we overlay, GIS and see what does the data show, based on accident data, based on speed ticket data, all of that. And I also do like that you would go in first and just make these radius, go with the school zones, make those your radius, and then that way we don't have to include that in your 25%, because I think that is a great way. And whatever other ways you see of being able to, lower the speed limit without being it used as our 25%. I do think, one of the other criterias besides bikes and schools and pedestrians is I think it's really important to look at streets that do not have any infrastructure. For example, we have so many streets that are, like when I look at Vulcan, part of Vulcan is 30, and we don't have a single bike lane or a single sidewalk on that road, at least, in my stretch of it. And then the other stretch of it, going towards the school, we have that asphalt path where there's cars half the time parked up and over it and blocking kids' safe access. So as we look at priority, I think that would also be really important, is to think about streets that don't have any safe infrastructure. Bless you. And I did also like your idea of doing, zones, like neighborhood zones, because I think that would make it simpler. But again, I think it should be data-driven. But for example, like our neighborhood that Commissioner Gross and I live in, we have lots of children. We have 0 sidewalks, 0 bike lanes, and and no streetlights either. And I do feel like, you will get Uber drivers or, delivery drivers that are not familiar with our neighborhood, and they get so cranky with us trying to walk in our neighborhood. Like literally, people won't move there's no sidewalk, and you're walking down the middle of the street. So long story short, I think that also needs to be considered, just infrastructure. What do we have? As Commissioner Johnston was pointing out, if the street is too wide, I like the idea of engineering some way to slow it down. I'm not I might be more in favor of a buffered bike lane as opposed to additional parking on the road, but whatever, engineering solution, I think that would be very helpful in lowering speeds. I know you're looking for us to give you some direction here, so I'm not sure I'm the best person to organize everybody's thoughts here, just because I would prefer that you guys are the experts, and you can take our thoughts and our concerns, but you do have access to all the GIS data, is that correct?
A lot of data. We have a lot of data, like the infrastructure. So to help, I took some notes while commissioners were discussing it, and this is what I heard. Again, this is what I heard. I think was kind of a priority by commission, and then let me know if you think this is not fair or not correct. First, I think I heard it, with the exception of Commissioner Trouth, that we want to maximize this. Again, when it comes to the motion, we can think about it. We can just leave it the way I say it. But I think the majority, maybe we can do a raise hand. I don't know. I can write this down. Like 6 commissioners said they want to maximize this. One suggested we do a pilot or we do a phase-based or something. But this is what I heard. Pretty much everybody agreed on starting from the roads that is on this map, 30 miles per hour or higher. Whatever we do, we start with this. Next, I have the data-driven. Either it's collision history, I have volume that Commissioner Wong mentioned. I have the infrastructure. Basically, GIS can light up different roads of the city. These are the collision roads. These are the roads that are missing a bike lane. These are the roads that are missing a sidewalk. So we can have those layers. So these are the different criteria, but based on the data-driven approach. Next, I have schools and routes to schools and school zones being a high priority right after those major higher speed roads, 30 miles or higher. And I have the preparation for ticketing, which is not really about this, but something to consider. The business district was a comment, but we're talking about it on the next item too. But this is what I heard. So
I guess
what
I
I
just
think.
wanted to jump in.
Mhm.
I feel like, yes, the 30-mile-an-hour roads are important, but if I was going to prioritize, I would say number one for me would be slowing it down in schools. But I realize you have another way to do that. So, right, so I'm confused by what you're asking, because I would say that number one, yes, slow it down in the schools using that other criteria. So for me, because that is where we have a huge number of kids on bikes and walking every single day. So let's slow it down there, and then, in that one zone.
So let's say
Does
we
that
had
make
only
sense?
10 miles of the city that we could do this at. Commission thinks we have to go around the 25s or 30s or whatever we have around the schools and bring them down by 5 before touching the 45s and 50s and 40s on this map. That takes precedence. That's more important. That's what Commission feels.
I'm going to
Fair.
let everybody else weigh in, or I don't know what you want to do. I just feel like schools should be slowed first. Now,
We might be able to do both. I don't want to feel you guys have to choose. I'm just trying to, because there will be a situation when we're kind of preparing this up that we have to pick and choose. I just want to know how Commission feels. Again, we might be able to do everything, which is a good chance.
okay, and I guess I'm a little confused, because I was just thinking that you were saying you were able to slow schools on their own without being involved in the 25%.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's the correct
Okay.
assumption, yes.
Yes, okay, so that's what I'm in favor of, is slowing the schools without counting for our 25%. And does that sound reasonable?
That's the whole concept of maximizing, basically.
Okay, yes, the maximizing, yes.
So we'll use our GIS, the way METCD is written about high concentration of bikes and ped. We would ask our GIS team to give us a lit up map that says these are the roads that would qualify based on the definition of METCD about high bike and ped concentration roads. whatever is in there would qualify for the extra 5-mile reduction. Doesn't even need to be included in the safety corridors. We take those off, and then now we have 25% of the city to play with.
How is that like not all of Encinitas with how much more people?
There is a very good chance.
Okay.
We have just a
'Cause I'm
lot of
thinking, like,
residential
this
roads.
This is like different than any other place in California in that sense. Like,
I was
Yeah,
even
Abe,
thinking our
yeah,
neighborhood
that-
streets.
I think you know. best
Commissioner
how to play the
Johnson
game.
here
You know
again.
what our objective is to maximize it. Because
Maximize.
it's, I don't know what the appropriate game to compare to is. And I don't think there's any reason to wait, because I think we should have done this 20 years ago. And I don't think there's any problem with doing it all at once, because if you do it sequentially, then people will be having to adjust to many years. So just do it all at once, as fast as you can.
The only concern would be basically the sign pollution that will come with it, which I guess I'll mention it to council next week too. I don't want them to feel, oh, what happened? We have like 500 new speed limit signs in the city, because that would come with it.
Well, we'll let them deal with that.
Yeah, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Johnson here. A thought is come next July 1st, drivers are going to be out on the road, and all of a sudden they'll see the paper bags taken off of signs that have been put up in the previous month or so, and they'll see that there's a new procedure here, new speed limits. One of the things we have to worry about is educating the drivers that a change is coming. This seems like press releases and things, and the good old electric sign, speed change, limit change, et cetera, so that people realize that something has changed and they have to change their behavior, because left to their own vices, people don't change their behavior very easy.
Okay, good comment. I do think we will need some education about that, definitely. So I guess,
I recall at our joint meeting with city council that we talked about, having something mailed out to people. So I'm hoping we're planning on doing that.
sorry, just a semi-geeky question, but I think with that, the way it works in the new speed limits, because a lot of people are, like, for instance, driving Teslas on autopilot, those speed limits are updated automatically, digitally as well, so that they'll know. That of course, would happen before the sign even goes up.
Cities, like we had this contract with Google in Long Beach that we would provide information to Google, but small cities like us, we don't have direct communication with Google or Apple Maps or anything like that. How they update their system, I'm not aware of that, but they're pretty accurate. Like
Yeah, no, I thought it was automatic though, but that's interesting.
we don't do it. I'm not sure. You know, Sergeant, how they do? We don't provide them information.
It's really interesting. Yeah, okay.
okay, good. I think then just to wrap this up is that number one, the first thing is we want you to, what was the wording you just, maximize, you say that, Commissioner Gross.
I think what you said, Abe, we're looking to maximize the relevant range we can go after, which would mean potentially not accounting for certain areas based on head and bike traffic data to not count against the 34 miles or 25% that we can include in this plan.
Yeah, no, that's a good motion. So motion to maximize implementation range with priority given to schools and roads with less infrastructure.
Okay, perfect. And then you'll look at all the other roads that are above, what's on this map. That would be the next one, yeah. Okay, I like it. Is every commissioners, I don't know, thumbs up, like school? Yes, nodding heads, okay. Do we need to make a motion, or?
I think Amanda can listen to this and make up something, and if you don't like it next month, you can change it. But I think we got the gist of it. Maximize, data-driven, infrastructure, school, priority, and this map.
Okay, good, because all it said was recommended action was receive and provide recommendation to staff. So I didn't think I had to make a motion.
No, we did receive, I think, the
Okay, good.
recommendation.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, so now we're on to 7B, or is this all in here? I guess there's a little bit more.
Oh, no, this one is good.
That was 7A, so now we're on 7B? Okay.
So this is a lot shorter. So we kind of went through what the new language says about business activity district. So a roadway has to have a maximum of 4 lanes of traffic, 30 mile per hour immediately before and after if we want to do a 25 mile per hour speed limit, or 25 mile per hour speed limit immediately before and after if we want to do a 20 mile per hour speed limit. We can introduce a business activity district if this location has at least 50% business activity, dining, commercial, outdoor dining. There needs to be parking on the road, parallel diagonal. There has to be traffic control, traffic signal, or a stop sign at least every 600 feet, and a marked crosswalk that is not controlled by a traffic control. So staff evaluated this segment that was recommended by council, and it did qualify between B Street all the way, I think, to J. Between D and J, we evaluated between B and H, but between B and J does qualify for business activity district. We will have a small segment of 30 after J, I think up to Swami's, and then after that becomes, I think, 35. We couldn't go all the way to Swami's because of this whole connection thing. We couldn't connect 25 to a 35 based on the language of CVC. And then the segment between J and H, I think, was longer than 600 feet. So it didn't meet 2 of the criteria, so we couldn't go further south of J. So between D and J would become a business activity district per council adoption of the ordinance. And after the second reading, we can start posting 25 mile per hour speed limit per the new AB 43. Would be our first implementation of the language. There are some codes in our municipal code that needed to be revised for this to be implementable. This is basically attached to the same report that is going to council next week. I'm open to questions, Chair.
Any commissioners have questions? Get your microphone out there, Commissioner Wong.
Okay, so this is the only section that qualifies for business district, correct?
We did look at, I said, further up 101 and up to Swami's and a part of El Camino, but the direction that we had from council was only for this. There might be, I mean, if we go deeper, there might be other locations in town that might qualify. I doubt it, but there might be.
Yeah, I can't think of any place because
Yeah.
El Camino Route doesn't have parking on the streets, so it sounds like it's either this, yes or no. There's not too many options, correct?
It looks like it, yeah. I mean, we can do another segment of 101, maybe further north, closer to maybe around Lucadia. Maybe there is an option there because that area does have parking. It does have 50%. The problem is we don't have crossing every 600 feet.
Right.
With the streetscape, there might be some new intersections being introduced. If they are less than 600 feet, that's...
Okay, so essentially you've already maximized, to use a term we've been using, with this map.
I don't want to promise on this, but I think it is. But yeah, I can't right now say 100% guaranteed there's no other segment of the city. We will look into this. But this one was a council direction with the bike emergency list that was approved. They suggested we do this. Well, they directed us to do this. That's why you're seeing it tonight. But there might be, again, I don't want to say. We did a quick cursory review of different roads of the city that we thought might qualify. None of them did, but.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. Considering the council asked you for it, they'll probably approve it, and I certainly approve it since you've done a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just was wondering if you can also just take a look at, north of Lucadia Boulevard or south of Lucadia Boulevard. I mean, I realize we have lots of businesses, lots of parking there. There's the crosswalk at the Panikin when you go south. We also have then the underpass with the roundabout. And then going north, we have, the new signalized intersection at Diana. So I feel like that might qualify at least another stretch of it. I realize maybe past Diana, but we do also have all of those raised crosswalks with I use them all the time, and I feel like those, they don't have a light signal, but they are like the hand.
RFP.
Yeah, thank you, RFP.
RRFP.
Yes, exactly. So those, we've got them, and I feel like that might be 600 feet in between.
Yeah, that's why I said I can't
Yeah.
guarantee. I mean, there might be
Yeah,
a quarter mile or something that we can
okay.
make
Thank
it
you.
work. Yeah.
That would be great. Anybody else?
I do have a question. Thanks, Abe. I know that we mentioned El Camino Real, but can you clarify what would designate El Camino Real to be in the business district? I know we're talking about
Yeah,
the
the
Coast Highway,
four
but
criteria,
what
let
can
me
we do?
zoom in here. The four criteria that we have here, 3 of them have to be met. So we would meet the 50% business property on the roadway. So criteria 1 is met. Criteria 2 is not met because we don't have parking on El Camino. Criteria number 3 might or might not be met, but criteria number 4 is also not met because we don't have marked crossings that are not controlled. All of the crossings on El Camino are controlled. So we don't meet 2 out of 4. We need 3 out of 4. We are, I guess has to be said for the record, on downtown, we are introducing, there was one segment that was more than 600 feet. We are introducing a new crosswalk to make D2J qualify. On I Street, we're adding a new crossing with our Slurry project. A new crosswalk with RFP will be installed there to justify. The problem here is even if let's say we go at a crowd, which is obviously with the situation on El Camino, the volume of traffic and the speed, even if we do that, the problem is the other one that says your neighboring roadway segment has to be 30. So there's no 30 mile per hour segment on El Camino Real that we could introduce a 25 mile per hour business district that's neighboring that. Our minimum on El Camino right now is 35. So maybe we can revisit this after we introduce our AB 43 lowerings. When some of them become 30, then we can look at possibly doing business districts there with 25s, but we still have to meet 3 out of 4 here. We'll think about it then.
Okay, thanks.
Any other commissioners? Okay, well, great. I think we've also met our receive and provide recommendation to staff. So if there's no further recommendations, I think we can move on to 8, the city traffic engineer report. And thank you, Abe, for those thorough looks at AB 43. That was really great. I'm looking forward to those being implemented. And so, sorry, on to city traffic engineering report. A is the safety and mobility project updates, and I guess I'm hoping to see on this list, is Santa Fe on this list?
Santa Fe is our CIP team's project. I have requested from our project manager to maybe come and update the commission. Maybe we can do it next month to provide a presentation on Santa Fe. I think it was done a couple months back. When we can do another revision.
I do remember it. I don't know if this would be an okay time for you just to give us a quick overview of it, or what the students were asking for versus they just were asking for protected bike lanes. Is that?
Well, there will be protected bike lane with Santa Fe. What I did hear, which we had discussed with Sergeant Collis here, unfortunately, when vehicles line up waiting to pick up, they are supposed, based on CVC, to get far right, which would be in the bike lane. Basically, they're lining up to turn right into the driveway of the school. Yeah, that's just an unfortunate situation with the pickup drop of the fact that we don't have school buses. That's where they have to line up.
Well, if we buffered the bike lane, then they couldn't pull into the bike lane. Is that correct? But then I guess that would back traffic up Santa Fe. What's your, Sheriff, what's your thought?
So the requirement is, even if there's a buffer there, your requirement is to move as far to the right-hand edge of the roadway when making a right-hand turn, if there's a buffer there or a bike lane, into the bike lane. And that prevents those right-hand hook turns where the bicyclist goes into the car when they're cut off. That prevents them. And that bicyclist has to slow down for that vehicle moving over. What's happening at SDA is they're pulling into the parking lot and then it backs up and now they're out into the roadway where they're supposed to be as far to the right-hand edge of the roadway, but now they're not moving, they're waiting for the kids to come out of school. So there's really, other than, we could tell them all, now you're parked in the bike path. However, where are they gonna go at that point? We've already moved them off of Bonita for no stopping. So at a certain point, they have to go somewhere.
Right, I know.
So there's a letter of the law versus spirit of the law.
And it will be resolved with the Santa Fe project. The bike lane would be off the road. It would not be even on the road. Like by SDA, the bikeway would be on the north side of the road, totally off the travel lane.
Okay, and that's coming within the next year?
I would leave that to the project manager. I know they are starting. There are like 2 or 3 phases that they have. They have Santa Fe West and they have Santa Fe East, and I think one of them is starting very soon. The other one is, I think, being done with the money that we received from Senator Blakespear office. I'm not sure about the timeline of it. I can provide more info to the commissioners next month.
Okay, great. Sorry, I didn't mean to segue into that. I just was thinking it was going to be on this list. So any other commissioners have questions?
One update for the commission that's not in here. Yesterday, after about 2 or 3 years of back and forth, we implemented the final intersection control for the Euless Hillcrest and Andrew intersection. Now there is a always stop control there.
Yes, thank you. I drove through that. I have lots of mixed emotions about that one. And I don't know if it's on this one either, but the project on Vulcan, the maintenance project, has that one, I think it's completely wrapped up and or maybe.
There's a small piece that's still perpendicular. That one is also going to be converted to parallel as a very small portion, I think.
Really? That is so exciting because that is the only place where I had to go into the street just the other day. So thank you to staff and to you guys for.
Thank you to our Public Works Department.
Thank you
That
to
was
Public
a
Works.
maintenance project.
Thank you for that maintenance project. Yes, I wanted to thank the appropriate staff. They did a phenomenal job, and I know they were excited about it because as I was traversing it, they were pointing out how much better the safety and mobility was going to be along Vulcan. So that's great. Commissioners, if you haven't had a chance, Vulcan is greatly improved with parallel parking, and it's made quite a difference in the neighborhood already. So that's great. Okay, I've really taken over this item. Anybody else? Sorry. Okay, if there's no other comments, then I guess we can move on to B, which is Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission log, which I just should.
One update here on Lucadia and Orpheus. We did pass the request for a left turn protection over there to Caltrans. No updates yet, but they did say they're implementing LPIs at their traffic signals, the lead pedestrian intervals.
Oh, that's great. At that, especially,
That's what we heard at Orpheus and Lucadia. We were told that it is being timeline. I don't know, but it's on their plans to do all of the signals in Encinitas implement LPI.
Okay, great. And then you have, like you said, you've asked about a protected left.
Protected left.
Okay.
How the study would be funded on their side. I can update. I can ask for a follow up, maybe an update in 2 months or so.
That would be great. Thank you very much on that one.
Any other questions here?
Here I am. I have a question on updates on the cycle track. Was that to provide data as time goes on and to see? I know that we had many questions when you first started and it was introduced, and I think some of the commentary was that it was a bit confusing. There was kind of various lanes and what lanes people were supposed to use, whether they were walking or riding a bike, and what type of bike and how fast they were going. Do you have any reports on that, or you're still collecting data? It's not far enough out?
No. First, we have some items here that commission asked them to be standing items for these kind of questions and comments and requests for additional evaluations. The updates on this is, one was we added some, per the design, we added some bumps at each right turn pocket and at each major driveway intersecting the cycle track to prevent vehicles turning right and left off of northbound, southbound 101 onto these westerly major driveways or entrances to cycle track to kind of slow vehicles down before entering the cycle track. We got some comments from some drivers and some bicyclists as these are very abrupt. So we replaced all of them with a more smooth, wider, hump-shaped, I guess. A little bit less effective in slowing down vehicles, but the fact that both cyclists and drivers expressed disappointment that they're like very abrupt and they're damaging their suspension or something. So, and we had one bicyclist who unfortunately didn't see them and couldn't really ride over them, and as soon as they hit them, they fell down. So it wasn't as smooth as a bicyclist could just go over them, I guess. I don't know how fast the bicyclist was going. So they were replaced with a more smooth hump shape, a little bit less height and a wider footprint that makes it more smooth. That was one change that happened. Our before and after data collection, the before data was collected in December. We did do one round of data collection in summer. We haven't released it because we thought it wouldn't be a fair comparison. We didn't want to boost our number higher to say, oh, see, it's very successful comparing a summer number with a December number. So we will redo the count in December and have a better before after. We haven't heard, the first 2 weeks we had some complaints and concerns from both riders and drivers. Obviously, it was new, looked very, very different, which was very different. But no, people park very comfortably there, and I've been seeing a lot of cyclists using it. Even our sports cyclist group are using it. So certainly a happier project compared to the first phase.
Yeah, great, thanks. And do you have any comments on northbound? I know that's quite narrow. In between Chesterfield and Swami's, for example. Have you had any comments or report on that northbound?
Not really. I mean, we did hear it a lot that it is narrower. It's pretty much like 90% of the length. It is wider than what it was before. The difference is now you have a 10-footer lane kind of touching it, whereas before there was a relatively wide lane adjacent to it. There is one very small segment that was before 6 feet, now it's 5, where there is a guardrail right in front of the campground entrance. That's, I guess, a couple hundred feet, 300 maybe feet, that's narrower. There's no solution to it. It's a 5-footer bike lane adjacent to a 10-footer lane. It does meet the standard. Obviously, it's uncomfortable, especially for cyclists. Maybe in the future where we have maybe the funding, that guardrail can move a foot back to open up the bike lane a little bit more. Obviously, restriping is another option, but that means the whole stretch of Chesterfield North has to be restriped to open up that bike lane. We might have been able to steal 1 foot from the buffer of southbound to add to this, but then the buffer would have become like 1.5. which for a bollard wheel stop protected area would have been a very narrow buffer. Because right now in that area, I think it's like 2.5. So to add one, because the lanes are already at their narrowest. So, it does meet the standards. It's just not, I guess, as convenient as the rest of the stretch.
Yeah, thanks. It is uncomfortable. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't ride two abreast, no doubt. Yeah, so,
Yeah, my hope is maybe we can touch that guardrail, because that's the easiest, lowest hanging fruit. That guardrail moves back, that opens up space a little bit.
yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. And then I just had wanted to thank our new mobility manager for being here. I didn't know if you just wanted to introduce yourself to the commission and maybe just, I don't know if this is the right time, but since we are looking at mobility and commission just projects that we have thought about, what are you thinking about and what's your role? And, welcome to our meetings. Thank you for being here.
Sure, thanks for the suggestion and for the introduction. I'm Nick Buck. I'm with the city of Encinitas for almost 25 years now, where I've spent pretty much my entire career in the Parks, Rec, and Cultural Arts Department. Avid cyclist, bike fanatic, and personally very interested in the work in the mobility space. So pleased to be in the new role and really happy to be learning a lot from you and from the teams here at the city. The areas that were covered by Sergeant Collis and Abe here, working really closely with these teams to, really to enhance opportunities for safe and enjoyable mobility around Encinitas. A lot of projects that we've been looking at, of course, really happy to see these things move forward. Some things that I'm currently quite busy with are furthering education efforts in Encinitas, specifically serving youth, so doing a lot of work in connecting with the school districts and making sure that we can provide enough opportunity for kids to receive an adequate level of education. And a lot of that is in partnership with outside agencies like the San Diego County Bike Coalition and in constant communication and interaction with the Bike Walk Group in Encinitas. So those are some of the more pressing things right now. And then as we kind of get some of those things figured out and in place, then we'll be looking at some bigger picture things. Really enjoying meeting a lot with community groups lately with E3 groups and looking at quail and Saxony and a lot of the concerns over there, but optimistic that we've got some really bright people here at the city working hard and some great plans to put into place. So I think that'll do it.
Okay, great, thank you. And do you plan on attending all of the traffic and mobility meetings?
Yeah, definitely planning on attending all of your meetings and, likely as plans evolve, I'll be, probably providing some reports and commenting more about the specific work in the education area and community outreach.
Okay, fabulous. Well, I just wanted commissioners and myself, I hadn't met you before, to get to know you and just know that if we have questions or things, we can also ask you during the meeting. So that would, if you're willing to participate.
Definitely.
Okay,
We can
great.
add an item where we have our special presentation at the beginning of the meeting, general mobility manager updates. We can add, like similar to the sheriff's update, we can add it to the agenda. So whenever Nick has an update for the.
Oh, that would be great. That would be really wonderful. That way, too, we can just hear what you're working on and the public can know as well. That'd be great. Thank you. Okay. Anybody? No? Okay, I guess that puts us on to item C, which was just the development project review. And I think we just usually look at that and see if there's anything new we wanted to do. Again, I'm going to just open this up quickly. Anybody have any questions or comments? Sure, Commissioner Standiford.
Abe, what is the criteria to make this list? Are these projects under consideration?
Yes, so this has started about, I think, 2 years ago or so. The idea is projects that are ongoing right now, either under review by Planning Commission, about to be reviewed by Planning Commission, going to council, there's an appeal going on. So these are, I guess, projects that are alive, not yet finally approved. So commission can see them, and if there are questions from the commission, I can get the information, pass it to the engineer who is reviewing them, provide the responses to the commission at the next meeting.
So essentially, they're in the pipeline?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I think we're then on to Commissioner's Corner. Any commissioners have any commissioner corner items? Well, this might be a first. So- Oh, Thiele.
Sorry. Nick, thank you for coming. I just want to comment that education is absolutely vital. Yeah, for the kids, well, and adults, but for the kids in particular. And we heard that, starting as young as middle school and younger, but it's vital for all of it, everyone to be educated on how to move around. Maybe, we'll have our safety corridors, how to safely get to school and home and move around. So that is critical for sure. And I also want to say, and I don't know if I speak for everyone up here, but let us know how we can help. If we or one or many of us need to come out to one of your sites, if that would help, please ask us. Don't be shy and ask us if we can come out. Yeah, a lot of us here obviously we're riding, definitely riding around our various neighborhoods and to and from school. We have parents with young children that ride with them, so we can definitely help. Thank you again.
Okay, well, thank you. If there's nothing further, then may I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Should we do all in favor? Aye? All right, that's it. Good meeting, folks, good meeting. Strong work. I know, I know, and we gotta bring them all up to the table, right? That was my mistake, I should have done it at the evening. I mean, I should have done it in the beginning of the meeting, but. Yeah, yeah. It's your 3 E's, engineer. I know, but you said that, the 3 E's, yeah. It is great to think about. The 3 E's. Thank you, Amanda. That was great, not too late. I didn't think it was gonna be this long, though. Great, and not too late. I know. Great meeting, good ideas. Thank you, as always.
You do a good job of driving that gap.
Thank you, my speaker's still on, everybody.
We read that out loud, right? And then we have to say the reasons why. We have to basically speak why we think it's unsafe. And if somebody meet that threshold, there's no way. So I wouldn't even call it. I'm worried about the whole, like some roads are 24, 25. But they were naturally driving. Nobody's, there's not really an issue right now, but now that Willow Springs could do take care of, there's not really about it. Yeah, I got a bad. We went up there. Plus, I mean, it's like, no, yeah, we'll be chatting. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Yeah, Nick. Thank you, man. Yeah.
So that's kind of cool too. It's like,
You notice things that you don't, notice on a flight.
and it's like, and getting rides from people, you notice things just everywhere in general, just being a
Hope
passenger.
you're not riding
Yeah.
things.
So it's like, it's fun, it's like pretty low stress, not having to like come back all the time. Yeah, so it's all good. Like, it's been a month and it's like everything's healing, I'll be fine. And it's like, just giving me more time to think about other things. Keep busy. How you been doing? What's new? And good, nice comments tonight too. You had a lot of good insights and things to say.
Well, I thought that you shouldn't have admitted that, explicitly saying that we wanted a no shift thing.
Mhm.
That should be in the draft.
That stuff, yeah, to, and to, you know, be more.
Do you work with them very closely?
I'm starting to, like, and it's funny, it's like, you know, until a few months ago, never had much reason to really interact with more Abe, but hardly ever Evan. And so better understanding now what the things are that he works on in his team. And then on my part, there was like always, like for all the years, like this major assumption that planning and engineering, that they worked really closely together on things. And what I've learned is that like now they're kind of like doing things in silos